Hello everyone and welcome back to another stream from Oman Talks NRL SuperCoach, here to preview round 25, getting to the business end. Only 3 more rounds of the regular season to go, so only a few more weeks of SuperCoach. Trades are running low, if not already gone. I've still got some to play with, which is good, but of course plenty to chat about. Huge injury to Nathan Cleary, of course, is a huge drama for SuperCoach purposes. It just feels like it's been a season of just injuries to a lot of the big guns, which never ideal to have to keep navigating. But look, at the end of the day, this is the highs and lows of SuperCoach. But great to see so many people already watching. A little bit of an early start at 6:30. Apologies, wasn't here on the Sunday for the wrap-up stream. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do those moving forward, just with other commitments and things like that in the next few weeks. So it might just be the Tuesday preview streams. So just a quick FYI on that one. Views are also a little bit down, but that also does happen when people start losing interest at the back end of the season as well. Work's also quite busy, but definitely got to do that at least Tuesday streams to cover all the major topics coming into the week. Big Hits, great username, says Yaman is back. Nick Solakis, the man is back. Queenslander, thumbs up, and cheers emoji, love that. Luke Merriman cooking up some honey mustard chicken. Got me Man Talks in the background. Life's good. Love to hear that, Luke. My partner is actually I won't even go into details, but basically because of it, she needs to be on the low residue diet, which is like no fiber, which is pretty terrible. So I'm trying to have some solidarity. So I made some poached chicken last night. It's a bit bland, but just a bit of salt on it. Actually turned out pretty good. I put it into like a sandwich with some salad leaves. Cholula sauce. Highly recommend Cholula sauce if you like a bit of spicy sauce. It's Mexican. It's unreal. With a bit of mustard, poached chicken, toasted sandwich. Actually turned out great. So you know what? Even the blandest of chicken can still come out good. You just need the right condiments. As Luke says here, he's got honey mustard on his chicken. Let me know, guys, if you've got no trades. Just tell me your favorite condiments instead. Jason Yang says, Aman, my man, got no trades left, but still listening to you while driving. Jason, just be safe when you're driving. Don't need to message when you're driving, but glad to hear that you're tuning in. Luke saying, is Ben Hunt an option? We'll definitely talk about halfbacks, of course, with Cleary being the big injury issue of the week. Hey King, thank you, James. You're the king as well. Joshua Hughes, let's go. Sad days. Like the vid, boys. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Do like the stream if you have enjoyed it so far in the first 3.5 minutes, or if you've already enjoyed it. Sad days, only one video a week. I mean, look, we still might be able to do the Sunday streams, but we are kind of coming into the tail end of things now, so the need for more content is a little bit less. So I guess when people probably more or less have their teams set up, they're just kind of playing the sit v start type thing, and the captains and whatnot. But of course, if you've got trades, you can still make some pod moves. So we'll try to focus our energies on that, less on the who should you be trading in, but more like the sit v starts. What are the matchups to be targeting? That's kind of the stuff we'll look to be focusing a bit more on today's stream. So I'll just give you a quick little update on where I'm sitting rank wise. I haven't really moved in the last few weeks, so I've been on this just outside the 3,000 rank for the last kind of few rounds, which is fine. I'm not having major red arrows, but nothing huge in terms of big greens. Had a few sit v starts, which didn't really go my way last week. The main one was when Iro was ruled out. I could either play Samuel Fainu or Mazu. I just thought Mazu versus Sharks was a tough matchup. Versus the Rabbitohs, I thought there might be some attacking stats on offer for Fainu. The left side did get the attack, but not to him. He was just the decoy all night. And so he only ended up on 25, and Mazu scored 75. So 50 points down there. If I got those extra 50 points from that one decision, we probably would have been sitting maybe 2,700, 2,600, which would have been a lot better. But I guess the most pleasing thing, I don't know how I've got to this point, because normally I do like to use trades, but I have 5 trades left, and this is not even a flex. I'm actually a little bit surprised that I've got this many trades left, but yeah, I've got 5 trades for the last three rounds, so I can almost max trade. So definitely I think we'll be doing 2 trades this week. Of course, Cleary's an obvious one to trade out, and I'll probably see what other moves I can make. I'll actually get you guys' opinion, because I'm a little bit lost on what to do on my second trade. But that leaves me some flexibility for kind of, any mass restings that may occur. There's been some chat about the Roosters resting players. We've heard for a few weeks now that the Storm might rest players in round 26 as well. So I don't mind having some trades up my sleeve, because I think it sounds almost like round 26 could be the carnage week. that we normally think happens in round 27. So kind of planning this week is okay. Obviously just Cleary to deal with, but next week does feel like it could be like a huge, crazy week. So got to be on our toes, I think, for that one. So only a few rounds left to go, but still, of course, the carnage remains. What was my FPL score? I scored 64 points, which was pretty solid in the end. I annoyingly, though, I last minute went for Kwanzaa from Liverpool. I had Munoz from Palace the whole time pre-season, and he got an assist and ended up on like 4 points. Kwanzaa only got the 1, and obviously now looks like a job security risk. So I lost 3 points, and I'm probably going to use an early trade I didn't want to use. But 64 points was fine. I captained Salah, so he obviously killed it. I'm a Mo sucker. Like I need Mo in my FPL team as much as I possibly can. So I shoehorned him and Haaland into my team, and Trent. I think a monkey can do better than my sit v starts. Yeah, look, I personally don't think I'm the best at the sit v starts, and I think like I've got a lot of stats to try to help with, the sit v starts, but I think a lot of it does come down to eye test. I haven't just been able to watch as many games in the last few rounds. Obviously I was away for a couple of weeks, and then just haven't been able to fully get back into the routine of actually watching a few games. So it's been a bit more difficult to kind of ascertain who are the actual good matchups, what are the weak edges, etc. Looking at team lists this week, most teams seem to be pretty fairly composed, like not too many understrength teams. So I feel like the matchups, a little bit harder to discern for this week. Yeah, I sat Eli Katoa and McLean last week. Not ideal, James. Big Chunga says 6 trades left. Is a hooker trade a waste? Can't think of anything else to do other than replace Cleary. Absolutely, for sure, in your situation. With 3 rounds to go, you can use 2 trades a week and you'll be fine. So absolutely, if you need to make an upgrade at hooker, like Reece Robson and Connor Watson are the 2 ones out this week, absolutely make the move. There's no point running like an AE or like a really low score. You've got the trades to be able to make that move. So for sure, I'd be doing it. Trades, what are they? It does not matter because mine is ready to roll. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot of people out there probably don't have trades. 3 trades and a boost. Congrats to Nakia. I mean, having a boost in round 25 is probably unheard of. So congrats for making it all the way here. Trading out Cleary, Drinkwater, and either Coruscant or Tungo. Yeah, I like the Cleary and Drinkwater trades out. Obviously, Drinkwater on a bye, but does have the next 2 weeks a little bit more difficult. And yeah, Coruscant does have a bye next week as well, and a tough matchup against Manly this week as well. So I think in terms of the streams will be a bit more flexible. Like we'll go through more of your questions, and we'll obviously cover things like sit starts. But big question for the week, of course, is Nathan Cleary. Like, what do we like? Not even what do you do, because so the report is that he should be back by week 1 of the finals, but effectively he's going to be out for the rest of the regular season, which means he's not out for the rest of the SuperCoach season. So given that he's like 895k, is a pretty easy person to sell. I think a few people on social media were mentioning like, oh, could you maybe hold on a week or 2 in case he comes back in round 27? If you've got the squad depth to be able to cover him and you feel like your team looks okay with him sitting on the pine, let's say you maybe have 1 trade left or you've got 2 trades left and you want to try to save them for maybe next week, which could be maybe Carnage, or maybe the week after in round 27, then I think there's no harm in holding Cleary. And if in the end you can navigate the Carnage, you can just flip Cleary to the best 2-week or 1-week play in round 26 or round 27. A couple of names that come to mind, well, really one name comes to mind, is Nico Hines. So Hines apparently could be available in round 27. I don't remember who the Sharks though have in that week. I think they've got Manly. So it's not like it's an easy matchup on paper, but like a Nico Hines, if he's back goal kicking, no one is going to be owning him. So you could just go like Hail Mary, Nico Hines trade in the last week. That's probably this kind of situation where I think it may be valid to hold on to Cleary. But I do think halfback is a high upside position. We have got a few good options. I personally do feel like it's worth just making the trade this week. Obviously, depending on your trade situation. I feel like if you've got 1 trade left, if you can adequately cover Cleary, then I'd maybe suggest to hold off. Or if you can, it's kind of it's a difficult one because you could have really good depth, which means you don't need to sell Cleary. But it also means because you've got really good depth, you can afford to make the trade and just rely on your depth then to hold you out for the rest of the season. So I think in that situation, I would probably think if you've got adequate depth where you feel like you can cover, just stress test your team. So look at next week. We've heard the reports that the Storm could be resting players in round 26. There's some rumors going around that the Roosters might rest players. That one I'm not as sure about, just because the Roosters only had a bye in round 23. So it's not like it's been that long since we've had that team's had a rest. But let's assume the Storm rest plays in round 26 and you've got Storm players. And maybe just worst case, assume that the Roosters also rest players in round 26. And let's assume you still hold Cleary. Just stress test your team and see, like, can it actually cop all these restings, or am I going to be absolutely stuffed? If you're going to be absolutely stuffed, even if you hold Cleary, you may as well just trade in a guy who you've got some confidence is going to be playing for you for the rest of the season. So in terms of the halfback options that I've got listed here, so I've got Sam Walker, Cherry Evans, Matt Burton, Luai, Ben Hunt as a bit of a pod, and then Jerome Hughes. So I believe all of these guys are featuring in the top 10 most traded in players. Makes sense. Cleary is the most number one sold player, and by a long way. So I'm just going to quickly look at the top 10 trade-ins. So let's see here. Yeah, you got Cherry Evans as number 1, Sam Walker number 2, Luai number 3, Hughes number 4. Matt Burton is number 9. So you have to go scroll down a little bit further to get to Matt Burton. But the top 4, Cherry Evans, Sam Walker, Luai, and Jerome Hughes. So we'll kind of run through all of them, and yeah, let's assess them all individually and see which one we think is the best option. So number 1 traded in is Cherry Evans, and the obvious appeal with him is he's a bit more lower owned than someone like Sam Walker or Jerome Hughes or even Matt Burton. So in the top 5% of teams, he's currently 19% owned, but you have to assume that by being the number 1 most traded in player, that number's probably more likely going to get up to mid-20s, maybe 26, 27%. So even then, I still think that's a pretty good ownership. Like, it's not like you're trading in a guy who's 60, 70% owned. And with Cherry Evans, the matchup is obviously the big appeal for this week. You got the West Tigers. I've written some notes. So his last 3 scores versus the West Tigers, 153, 75, and 105. So his last 3 scores have been really, really strong against the West Tigers. Statistically, they also it's a good matchup on paper as well. So they, over the last 5 rounds, have been the 5th worst at defending opposition halfbacks. Number 1 is actually the Dragons. But West Tigers, even if you filter that for the entire season, the West Tigers, I think, are 5th or 6th for defending halfbacks over the season. So they're ranking pretty highly. So look, it's a good matchup on paper for Cherry Evans, and the stats kind of back that up. The other benefit with Cherry Evans is that you kind of don't really see him getting a rest. Like, Manly are in the top 8 and they're likely to stay there, but they might want to try to make a late push for potentially even top 4, or just ranking higher, like maybe in number 5 position. Cherry Evans is also just someone who just generally does not get rested for Manly. So I think if you're looking uber conservatively, like let's say you do have the one trade and you just have to make the trade this week, and you just can't afford someone who has potential of getting a rest, I think Cherry Evans is probably your best bet for the really good matchup for this week. I think the other 2 options that fit this category are, well, the other 3 is actually Matt Burton, Luai, and Ben Hunt. I don't really think any of these guys are actually going to get a rest over the rest of the season. We know the Dogs are fighting for a good spot in the top 8, so I think there's no way, in my opinion, that Burton gets a rest. Ben Hunt as well, the Dragons are looking to consolidate and get that top 8 position. Can't see him getting a rest. And then with Luai, with Cleary going down, I just feel like they're going to need Luai to steer the ship. And Penrith are not necessarily locked into top 4. They do still need to win their games. So I think, for me, I also think Luai is pretty safe. Sam Walker, there is some, obviously, that chat about that resting for the Roosters. So that's why he's got a little bit of a question mark with him. So I think with him, draw-wise, over the next 3. So I crunched the numbers based on PPM conceded over the last 5 weeks in terms of rankings. So Sam Walker and, surprisingly, Jerome Luai actually, on paper, have got the best matchups for halfbacks. Doesn't really surprise anyone, I guess. We've talked about the Roosters' really good draw for the run home. And same with Penrith. Luai in particular has some really good numbers when he has played at halfback this year. He's got a 98 average this year playing at halfback, and he's got a 72 average without Cleary. But I did want to give a shout out to Bruma_23 on Twitter, Matthew, because he pulled these numbers on Twitter, which I thought were actually really relevant. So I was actually looking at Luai as a bit of a pod after looking at initially those matchups, because I thought he's performed very well over the season without Cleary and at halfback. But his big scores at number 7 was when he was playing with Jack Cole. Now, I can't really remember too much from those games, like eye test wise, but when he was partnered with Brad Schneider, who has got the number 6 spot for Penrith, his scores were actually 61, 130, 55, 41, and then 2 scores of 33. So apart from that one score of 130, he only just went over 60 in one occasion, and then otherwise pretty low scores. So thank you, Matthew, for pulling those numbers, because I thought that was actually quite relevant, because on paper, I thought Luai, given his 4% ownership in the top 5%, was the perfect mix of a really good draw, high potential for scoring, and very low owned. But looking at those numbers a little bit more, I'm kind of thinking Luai maybe not the person I think I'll be going for. So that kind of let me away from Luai, and it went back to Cherry Evans, Walker, and Matt Burton. I think Jerome Hughes, I'm happy to kind of, I think, avoid, like, he's 44% owned, so you're not necessarily getting a pod. And it does feel like the Storm will rest their players at some point in the next 3 weeks. And if you're really trying to avoid that, I'd probably suggest to avoid Jerome Hughes. And ever since Munster has come back, he's been fine. He's averaging around 64, 65, but he's just not getting those 7, like he was getting like an 85 average without Munster in the team. So I think Hughes, for me, I'm actually happy to rule out as well as your replacement. So again, keep boiling it back down to Cherry Evans, Walker, with Matt Burton. So he's, what did I say, the 9th most traded in player. I think the matchups are not the easiest. So you've got Warriors away, which, look, they have been the 8th. They're ranking 8th for conceding points to opposition 5/8, but it's an away game, and I think the Warriors, I believe it might be the Warriors' last home game because they've got the bye in round 27. You know, they could put in a big performance for like Sean Johnson. It's a tough away trip. The Bulldogs have been travelling quite a bit in the last few weeks as well. Burton's kind of got like a very safe floor of 60 to 70, but I think if you're, again, thinking people who've got head-to-head aspirations, if you need a must-win this week, I feel like Burton's the kind of guy who's just going to give you like a 70, 75, which is fine. But if you're looking for like a big 100-plus score, he's only got one of those this season. That's when he scored a hat-trick. I just don't feel like Burton has shown enough of the ceiling. Cherry Evans, to me, feels like he does have that, and he's got the matchup on paper for this week. So Burton, I think for the run home, you know, Manly is not like super easy. Cowboys in round 27 looks good on paper, but the Cowboys have actually been a little bit better defensively in the last few weeks as well. And he's a little bit higher owned as well. So I'm actually ruling out Matt Burton as well. So I've kind of ruled out Burton, Luai, and Jerome Hughes. Ben Hunt, I'm kind of also, look, he's the biggest pod. He's 0% owned in the top 5% of super coaches. Good price at 565k. The thing with him, it's like roller coaster. So he has got 2 scores over 100 this season, but he's got a very, very low floor. So I'm just going to quickly pull up some of his scores from over the season. But like, if you're looking for someone who's going to give you a solid score, that's Matt Burton, not Ben Hunt. Because Ben Hunt's got a base of 17. He's got scores of like 25, 35, 29, 32. Like, he's got some good scores in him, and he is central to that Dragons team. But again, this week against the Sharks at home, Sharks doesn't really feel like a great matchup this week. The next 2 weeks is where I think you'd want Ben Hunt, with Parramatta and then Canberra. But if you're looking for that trade for this week, personally, I feel like you're going to get a little bit more out of Cherry Evans and Walker. Even Cherry Evans, though, having that tough round 26 and round 27. So again, looking at that, I've got Sam Walker and Cherry Evans as my 2 that I'm really going to be considering, and I don't think that's pretty obvious, right? They're the number 1 and 2 most traded in players for this week. I think the one that you go for comes down to your trade situation. So I'm thinking about it a little bit more in that. So I've got 5 trades, so I'm a little bit more flexible with how many, with switching guys in and out. So, and the other thing, team specific, I don't own Turbo. I was originally looking at maybe getting in Turbo to captain, but I'm thinking about it a bit more. Ponga versus the Rabbitohs, I think, is completely fine to keep. So I'm thinking getting a little bit extra piece of Manly is not a bad idea. And with my trade situation, yes, round 26 and round 27 are very tough for Cherry Evans, Bulldogs and Sharks. But what I can do is trade in Cherry Evans this week against the Tigers, get probably the best matchup on paper this week. And you know that he's guaranteed to pretty much play 26-27. If Sam Walker actually does get a rest, like some rumours are floating around, if Sam Walker gets a rest in round 26, I can just keep Cherry Evans and I don't have to play him in my 17. I can play some other guy instead. Or if I'm feeling a little bit spicy, or if I see really good signs out of Luai, I can just go Cherry Evans to Luai next week. I've got the trades to be able to make that. It's like halfback roulette, basically. It's not fullback roulette, halfback roulette. So, or if Sam Walker does get named, I might decide, you know what, playing Canberra at home, I want Sam Walker, and I might just go Cherry Evans to Sam Walker at that point. So I think that's how I would be thinking about it with which one of the 2 you trade in. I think if you've got the depth and you can maybe cop Sam Walker getting a rest and you can cover him in round 26, I think Sam Walker's the guy I'd be getting, just because I think his matchups over the next 3 in totality are far better than Cherry Evans. He goal kicks. We've seen him get, I think he's got like 500 plus scores already this season as well. He's definitely got the ceiling. So Sam Walker's if you're asking me, say like in round 10, I'd be like, get Sam Walker. But I understand there's head-to-head things that come into it. You're looking for more singular matchups. I think Cherry Evans has got the highest ceiling this week. Sam Walker, for the next 3 weeks, I think will outscore him, provided he plays all 3 games. If he doesn't and he misses round 26, then I think, and if you're really, really concerned about any restings, like say your head-to-head finals next week, you need a guy who's going to play. I think Cherry Evans is the safe one for you. So hopefully that kind of answered people's questions about best Cleary replacements. There's a couple of guys who I haven't actually listed here who I do think are actually worthwhile pods. So we talked a little bit about Luai and Ben Hunt. I think the best pod is probably still Luai. I know his numbers with Brad Schneider aren't looking great based on the stats that Bruma pulled out, but look, he still has got really good matchups, and he has shown this year playing at halfback. He's actually been really good for SuperCoach. So I think if you're happy to take that chance and go for a pod, if you need a pod for your head-to-head, Luai for me is the guy. Another one that I think is actually not a bad shout, again, looking at singular matchups for this week, if you have a look at the halfback column on the PPM conceded over the last 5 rounds, just below me, the team that's ranked worst is the Dragons. Braden Trindle has been named by the Sharks. We saw him not that long ago get 138 versus the Tigers. He will be goal kicking as well. Pretty good scores in the last 3 weeks, 152, 81, and then the big 138. Again, I think if you're going for a pod, Trindle could actually be the best. Like if you've got like a must-win head-to-head this week and you need to go pod, I quite like the Braden Trindle shout. So I'm just going to have a quick look at his ownership for you, just on the SuperCoach page. But I actually don't even hate him as a shout. He's 678k, so he's only a little bit more expensive than Cherry Evans, but obviously you can easily afford him if you're selling Cleary. So yeah, Braden Trindle's only 3% owned in the top 5% of SuperCoaches. So I think if you're going for pods, Luai and Trindle seem to be the best. Trindle's got the benefit of the goal kicking, and I'd almost argue local derby, statistically the Dragons have been conceding points to halfbacks. I'd actually almost argue who could be a better 1 week play than Jerome Luai this week. So there's a couple of that's a couple of pod shouts that people might consider. I probably should have actually given Trindle a section on the table, but I did think of him, and I definitely wanted to shout him out. Thank you, Benny G, for the $2 donation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That will be going towards my coffee tomorrow morning. Thank you. Like the stream where your captain gets a HIA. Guys, surely you don't want that to happen. So yeah, listen to Benny G and like the stream if you've enjoyed it. SC Warrior saying, what about Trindle? Yeah, I actually really like Trindle as a bit of a 1 week shout. Just with the goal kicking coming up against the Dragons. It's a local derby. We've seen him, he controls, he is a ball hog when he is in control of that team and Nico Hines isn't there. While that might not be good for the Sharks, if you're a SuperCoach owner, you want your guy to be a ball hog and greedy and commanding all the balls. So I think Trindle is actually not a bad shout. What about Dane Laurie or Munster? Plus, is Luai stats with Schneider when he was at 5'8"? Yes, I think those stats with Luai when he was... Sorry, actually, let me double check that. So the scores where Luai was going a little bit lower was when he was playing at number 6 and Brad Schneider was at halfback. So if you look purely at his halfback scores, it's 73, 124, 102, 130, and then 61. Really, really big scores there. There were some easy matchups in that. To be fair though, the 124 was against the Sharks, 102 was against Manly, and 130 versus Knights. So, 2 of those 3 teams that were in the top 8. So, he's versing some decent opposition and scoring well. And I think Canberra, Rabbitohs, and Titans, really, really good matchups on paper. So, I still think, if you're looking for a pod, I think Luai, he could actually be a really, really solid option. Wishart, Wishart has been named on the wing coming up against the Dolphins. It's not a bad matchup, but it's a tough one. I'm assuming he's playing left wing, which would normally be, say, the side that Xavier Coates is on. Look, he would definitely be a pod as well. I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel like Storm outside backs, I very rarely feel like they go real 100 plus, whereas someone like Sam Walker or Cherry Evans, like the more traditional halfbacks. Like Luai scored 130 already this year. Burton's gone 147. Cherry Evans has gone like 153 last time versus the West Tigers. Sam Walker's gone 170 versus the Dragons earlier in the season. I just feel like those actual number 6s and 7s have got the highest ceiling, and I feel like that's kind of what I'm prioritizing at this point in time. And Wishart playing on the wing, he's probably going to have a safe floor because he's just a goer. Like, he loves just taking runs and stuff. Yeah, but personally, I think if you're looking for a Cleary trade in, I'd probably target the like true 5/8s or halfbacks. Similar argument I'd probably say with Dane Laurie. So Dane Laurie has been named on the wing for Penrith, so he's not been playing at fullback. I think if he was playing at fullback, it's a completely different question because he was killing it when he was playing at fullback. Whereas last week, I think he played on the wing and he only scored 40 points. Granted, it was Melbourne, but I do feel like, again, ceiling is probably a little bit capped if you're playing on the wing versus actually playing, say, at fullback or playing in the halves. Am I touching on fullbacks? Yep, I'll talk a little bit about fullbacks as well. I swapped accounts. Did I swap accounts? What are you talking about? Anyway, not even sure if that's directed at me. Whatever. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts, I guess, on those Cleary replacements at the moment in my own team. Because I don't have Turbo, I think I'm leaning towards just getting Cherry Evans and just hoping I can spike like a big 120, 130 score. And then if Sam Walker's named again next week, then I might just trade Cherry Evans straight to Sam Walker next week and just play a bit of roulette. Because like Cherry Evans has got a good 5-round average of like 71 points. His 3-round average is 75. So he's been doing very well in the last few weeks. And yeah, his high score is Penrith, 128 this season, and that was in round 5. But yeah, otherwise pretty solid scores the last three, 73, 77, 75. Just targeting the matchup, I think, in this one. But partly it's to cover Turbo, who I may not own this week, and he's probably going to be the highest captain, which is a little bit terrifying. And if I get in Cherry Evans, I'll probably VC him, to be honest. With Munster, so I'll quickly address that question as well with Munster. So yeah, on paper, Dolphins is a really good matchup for a 5/8. So they've been conceding the most points to opposition 5/8s. But so again, I think if you've got, so I didn't really consider Munster, to be honest, but again, if you've got trades where you can maybe get him in and then flip him out if the Storm do rest players, then I think Munster is a great potential 1-week play. And of course, you need duels to be able to get someone like Cam Munster into your team because he's only listed at 5'8". Just, I guess, the last few weeks, like what we're looking at, 59, 49, 63, 32. Like, so even in his last 3 80-minute games, we're just not quite seeing those really big scores. He's probably still not 100%, to be honest, just from a physical standpoint. So again, thinking of who would I trust with the biggest ceiling this week, I would still trust Sam Walker, Cherry Evans. I'd even probably still prefer Matt Burton over Munster this week, just because with Burton's goal kicking, I feel like he'll probably have a better chance of exceeding what Munster could get this week. Because I feel like Munster's still not playing at 100%, so I'm not too high on going in on Munster this week. Genuine question, but good to make a live stream of you, Aman. Looking at round 27, if you're improving your overall rank this week, has stronger matchups, or am I missing something? Sorry, I'm not following 100% Matthew, but I do have a section on matchups. I don't have one on center wing, sorry, Jerry, but we can talk about center wings for sure. I wanted to quickly touch on fullbacks. Now, this is a bit of a tough one because I know a lot of people, they probably already have 2 of Turbo, Teddy, and Ponga. And that's pretty hard to get out of when Turbo's got the Tigers this week, Teddy's got Titans, and Ponga's got Rabbitohs this week. I was debating going Ponga to Turbo, and if I do Cleary to Cherry Evans, I can actually afford going Ponga to Turbo and then just deciding I'm going to straight captain Turbo. But it did feel a little bit like I'm shoehorning in 2 Manly players just for this week. And even if they did okay for me, I do still have then 2 Manly players who are running into the Bulldogs and Sharks, and I'd want KP back straight away. So it could be burning a lot of trades on the roulette, which is not bad. But if injuries do come up again, or if there's other restings, I might regret doing those 2 trades, and I might want to get instead someone else. So I think I'm cooling off and going KP to Turbo. Again, you guys are probably going to hate me because I'm assuming most people don't have 5 trades. But if the Roosters decide to rest players next week, you know what? I'm actually all for it because what I would do next week is I'd go Teddy to Dylan Edwards. So, of course, Dylan Edwards, we know, has been so good this year without Nathan Cleary when he's been goal kicking. He's got a really good run home with Canberra Rabbitohs and the Titans. We know his average is like over 100 this year without Cleary. So, and he's 1% owned in the top 5%. So, like, he's he's basically not owned at all. So I'm all for Teddy getting a rest next week and then going Teddy to Dylan Edwards. And then I can reassess in round 27. But that's something more for next week. I'm thinking at the moment this week, I probably won't be doing any KP to turbo moves. But I guess just wanted to highlight Dylan Edwards here because obviously we know how good he's been without Cleary this season. If you are going for a low-owned fullback, say for a head-to-head point of view, Dylan Edwards for sure would be the one I'd be looking at, and he's 839k. So like, yes, it's expensive, but if you're selling Cleary, you should hopefully free up money to be able to get in someone like a Dylan Edwards. Also highlighting Gutherson, Parramatta's draw now looks a little bit better on paper because now their next three is Broncos, Dragons, and then the Tigers. So it's not a bad run home. Gutherson has been really good in the last 3 rounds, average of 99. Pretty much got zero ownership in the top 5%. I think in the top 5%, I saw he has 18 owners. Like, he has no owners at all. So again, if you're thinking Uber pod, Broncos have been the 4th worst over the last 5 rounds at defending fullbacks. Gutherson statistically actually has got the best run home for a fullback. So he's not a bad little pod option. I'd prefer Dylan Edwards just with the goal kicking, and I think what we've seen out of him this season without Cleary. But yeah, Dylan Edwards and Gutherson, I think, are 2 really, really nice pods to consider for your fullbacks. Thank you, Nick, so much. The $10 donation, that is so, so generous. Your streams are the best. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. You have 1 trade left. My halves, 5-8s for the run home are Hughes, Cleary, Galvin, and Cody Walker. Oh yeah, of course, I didn't even really touch on that. Cody Walker's been ruled out this week with a head knock. So I think, again, if you're in a situation where you're, say, trading a 5-8, so you're trading Cody Walker out for a 5-8. If you're looking at the best run home for a 5-8, the options get a little bit more limited. But Luai probably stands out. Munster for this week, or Burton. Probably those 3 are the ones I'd be looking at. And as I've said, with this draw looking pretty good, I think you can even consider Dylan Brown. If you've already sold Dylan Brown, like, he's actually got his high score this season against the Broncos. He scored 96 against them earlier in the year. Then he's running into the Dragons and the Tigers. I don't even hate Dylan Brown as a trade-in, to be honest. If you're selling Cody Walker and you can't maybe afford some other options, Dylan Brown is also a really, really safe option. Anyway, back to the super chat. So your halves, 5-8s for the run home are Hughes, Cleary, Galvin, Cody Walker. Thinking Cleary to Luai, so I can then swap Cody and Luai on matchups. Second row forward, center wing, fullback is solid. Yeah, I think that's a really, really good plan. I think Cody Walker's only out for this week, and to be honest, I don't think you're probably wanting to play Cody Walker for the rest of the year because he's missing this week versus the Knights. And then I believe he runs into, Penrith and Melbourne? I think, no, he runs into Penrith and then the Roosters. So he's got 2 pretty tough games to end the season. So to be honest, you're probably not likely going to be playing Cody Walker anyway. So I think in your situation, obviously Cleary is the bigger one to sell because he's out for the rest of the regular season. Yeah, Cleary to Luai, we've already highlighted that Luai could be a really, really good pod just with his low ownership and really good numbers without Cleary, or really good numbers playing at a halfback. And I think, yeah, look, this is one of those situations where you'll be using your last trade, but you are saying that you've got pretty good depth elsewhere, so you can probably just about cover for it. So, you know what, I don't hate it, and I like the pod shout. So yeah, I think the plan is solid, Nick. But thank you so much for the donation. That's really, really generous. And Matt, sorry, you're saying that you haven't caught me in a live stream in a while, so it's good to catch you live. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. 170 viewers as well, which is awesome. I thought we might be going like at 80 or something, just given that I thought people would have no trades. But yeah, good to see a good turnout. All right, so I think that's probably it really on the fullbacks, unless there's any other fullbacks that people have in mind that they might want to consider potentially like as a trade-in. But I think realistically, the only thing that I really wanted to cover in this bit with that, I was dabbling with doing KP to Turbo, but just knowing that I definitely prefer Ponga's next 2 I definitely prefer Ponga in round 26 and 27 compared to Turbo. I just feel like a lot of people, again, this is probably actually something worthwhile mentioning. If you can afford to keep one trade up your sleeve or even 2 trades, Turbo to Ponga could be a really, really nice move in round 26. Assuming Teddy doesn't get a rest and he's playing, then, Turbo to Ponga could be a really, really nice play. So I think if I was thinking that Turbo to Ponga is a good option around 26, feels a little bit luxury going Ponga to Turbo this week and then going straight back to Ponga when other things could come up. So I'm personally leaning away from doing it, and I might just have to sit behind a couch when the Tigers play Manly on Thursday. Alrighty, I don't have a specific section on centre wing, guys. Apologies, but what I can show you is, where is it? So let's just quickly look at this graphic here that I've got, which is just looking at the best last 3 weeks of the season. So maybe we can pick out a few centre wing options that look really good. I haven't pulled the numbers on like best numbers for opposing centres and stuff, but the main reason I didn't do that was because I feel like a lot of people's centres are probably pretty stable at the moment. I'm assuming a lot of people have got Garrick, Val Holmes, Dom Young. That's already 3 guns occupying your centres. I do think like if people are shopping for centres, the 4 that I can think of that are called guns would be Karaz, Lomax, Manu, and To'o. Those 4 kind of stand out to me as good trading options. Lomax is actually the 10th most traded in player this week, although it's the Sharks, but I really like his last 2. So someone was asking Jack here, trade in Lomax or To'o this week. I think if you're trading one of those 2 in, I would definitely be getting in Lomax. I think because I think goal kicking just means he's got such a safe floor. Like I know Sharks this week is tough, but even before last week's matchup against the Titans, he was putting up good scores even against tough opposition. Like his average, I think, was 70 versus like Penrith Roosters and maybe Melbourne. So I feel like he's a little bit more matchup proof. And I think To'o is a candidate potentially for a rest as well. And with Luai being the dominant half now, there could be some differences in terms of which winger gets the priority in terms of the clean ball. So yeah, I think Lomax would be the one I'd be leaning towards out of those 2. And I think I really like his round 26 and 27 matchups. Who's he got? He's got the Parramatta Eels and got Canberra. I think those are really, really good matchups. And one thing I should mention about the graphic on the screen right now is that I haven't updated it in a few weeks. So, the Broncos being a red shade, ignore that. They should be obviously more like a yellow / even a green. And the Sharks should be a red shade, not in the yellow. So just one thing to caveat there as well. So Reese is asking, is the centre wing of Iro, Marzu, Garrick, To'o, Dom Young, Isako, and Karaz good for the run home? Yes, I think that's a pretty solid centre wing for the run home. Sorry guys, I think it might be... Sorry guys, I think my modem may have had a bit of a pause, although YouTube is telling me I've got excellent connection. So let's just keep going as is. Otherwise, I might have to just quickly switch. Okay, sorry guys about the delays, a bit of lag happening, but that's all right. We'll fix that up. Sorry guys, 1 second. I'm just going to hotspot myself actually. Let's see if this works. Bloody joke. Personal hotspot. Go, come on. What's going on here? Apologies, guys. Let's see. Toaster. Yep. How about a poem? Sorry guys, this is not good content right now, but okay. As long as you guys can hear me okay. I've actually just turned on the stream on my phone, so hopefully you should be back now. I think there might be a bit of lag on my face camera, so let me just turn that off for the time being. Let's just turn that off and see if that helps things. Sorry guys, the modem. Sorry guys, it wouldn't be an Aman Talks NRL SuperCoach stream unless the Wi-Fi died. Surely, right? Just had to happen. Okay, just let me know. Yeah, just let me know, guys, in the chat if you can hear and see everything. Okay, because at the moment, YouTube is just spinning around its little logo, and I don't know if that means that it's actually working or not. Improvise, adapt, overcome. I am improvising by I'm now streaming by hotspotting my mobile phone, which is not ideal. But hey guys, if you can stream off your mobile phone hotspot, then how good. Alright, I'm seeing a few more comments coming in. But yeah guys, just please let me know if it's all working just fine. Apologies for the issues, but just classic my streams, isn't it? I can hear you. Okay, cool. You can hear me. Okay, you know what? Let's chance the camera as well. Let's see if that works. Anyway, look, if you can hear me, I'll continue. But what I've got on the slide as well, if you can see that, hopefully okay, is just looking at one of the best matchups for this week on paper. So I've kind of tried to order it in my head as to which teams have got the best matchup. So no surprise, I've got Manly at the top versus the West Tigers. Then I've got Melbourne, Roosters, Bulldogs, Penrith, Broncos, who I think have all got pretty... anyway, look, I'll just keep talking and let's see if everything gets covered off. But yeah, a few stat highlights that I wanted to highlight for this particular round. So versus the Broncos, I really like Talangi and Gutherson statistically. I think that looks like a pretty good matchup. I've already highlighted kind of Luai versus the Raiders and him in general as an option. Against the Dolphins, we mentioned Munster. Pappenhausen actually has got a pretty good matchup statistically, but he doesn't look 100%, so I probably wouldn't realistically actually suggest him as an option. Jai Gray versus the Knights on paper looks pretty good as well. So Knights rank 4th worst at defending opposition fullbacks. Will